Hey Slay Nation, it's Heather, the host, back with another episode of the So She Slays podcast. I'm here with Michelle Pollack. She is the high performance coach and speaker and creator of the Art of Compassionate Command. We're going to talk about some life shit. I mean, I feel like everybody in my life currently has gone through this ginormous change that's happening. And we're all sitting here twiddling our thumbs like, what the hell happened? And why the heck are we here? Why are we not happy? Why do we feel so burnt out? Why all of the above? I feel like there could be a ginormous list of whys, followed by burnt out. I'm tired. Why do I hate my job? Why do I hate my life? Why am I not successful? Why am I not further along than what I thought I was or should be? Anyways, but we're going to get into that. So before we do though, Michelle, go ahead and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, give us a quick rundown, and then let's have this conversation because I'm so interested in hearing your reasons why.
Awesome. So I can completely relate to where you are in your life and where that group of people, because that was me. I was, in my early 30s, I had this exciting, flashy job in entertainment. I had come from the world of theater where I worked on shows like Avenue Q, and I was part of the team that helped to create In the Heights initially. From the producerial side. And then I went out to work in LA, and I was in TV, and I worked on shows like The New Adventures of Old Christine. I was an executive at CBS. I worked on a show called Without a Trace and The Unit. And then I went and worked with Paramount Television on their production of Grease Live. And that was my swan song. Grease Live was my swan song because for years I had been having those feelings of total lack of joy. I mean, that's the best. It wasn't even like I'm unhappy. I just wasn't I felt empty. And here I had this flashy, cool job in entertainment, right? People were like, oh my God, that's so cool what you do. And I was like, why do I feel this way? I was consistently just there's something missing. I'm not feeling fulfilled. This is what I trained for in my life. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm on the right path, but it just was not doing it for me. And I took a little bit of time after having my kids and being at CBS. I was home with my kids, and then I went and worked with Paramount as a creative consultant on Grease Live. And I don't know if it was that time away and having the perspective of having children and seeing life through a different lens. But when I went back into entertainment, I was like, this is not it. This is not it. This is not how I want to spend my day in, day out for however many years I'm going to be doing this. And I don't want to leave my kids for this. And there were multiple reasons why, but for years and years, people had been saying to me, you should be a coach. And when I first started hearing that, I was like, what the hell is a coach? I don't know what, life coach. And I'm like, what the fuck is a life coach? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But then I actually had a friend who was doing it, and he was he was having a lot of success, and he was super fulfilled and happy. And we had lunch, and he was like, Michelle, just go try this program, see what you think. And I went for my first training, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a coach. It was so obvious to me that this was my thing. I'd always been interested in personal development and growth and what makes me tick and why am I the way I am, and what's in the way of me getting where I want. And I didn't realize that how much coaching bridges that gap. Much therapy is a lot of looking backwards and analyzation, and they overlap in some ways, but coaching is really about both who are you being and then what are you doing to get yourself where you want to go. But also it's getting clear about where you want to go so that you can do those things, right? Because if you're just floating in the middle going like, oh my God, where am I and what do I want? How can you get there? So it was like this. I started and I never looked back. It was so clear to me that this is what I was meant for and this is what I wanted to do, and I've been doing it since. And here we are today. But I can really relate to that. I mean, it is really truly my story, that feeling of what am I doing with myself? And I planned for this. I'm here, and I don't know what to do because it's not what I want. And one of the really big
Mm,
things that came up for me a lot was if I abandon ship on this, I'm a failure. And that was a big message that I kept giving myself over and over that kept me stuck where I was a lot longer than in hindsight. If I'd let go of that idea of, if I don't complete whatever this mission, like this idea of success that I have in my head, then I'm a failure. If I had been able to let go of that and just go, well, are you successful if you're miserable? Because I'm not sure that qualifies as my definition of success, right? But that is something that keeps a lot of people stuck where they are for a long time. They can't imagine letting go of this thing that they've built or started to build. And on paper, their lives look exactly the way they thought they were going to and imagined
mm.
they would. And yet, why do I feel like
Yeah, I
dead
feel
inside?
like
That's a lot of
because
what
I mean,
people come up
if I'm
against.
not in So She Slays and doing all of our stuff here in the agency and all that kind of stuff, the other half of my life is in the entertainment industry. So like I get it, it's a hustle, it's a grind. You got to really love it cuz it really does take a lot
Mm-hmm.
out of you. um so my thing though is that
Yes.
I'm kind of coming across this. I went through this last year myself. This, what the hell am I doing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, and it was a lot. And I have a lot of friends making the same type of transitions and questions and just unhappy with where they are in their job, in life, in what they're doing and all of that kind of stuff. And this, you
Mm-hmm.
touched on it, like this little bit of success or what we're supposed to do. And it's so interesting that we're all in like our early to mid 30s and we're all reaching that point of like, this is draining. What I'm doing is draining my soul. Like, so what do I do in that moment?
Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing, uh, the biggest thing that I see that happens for people when they have this feeling is they have disengaged or aren't even aware of their values. To me, getting really crystal clear about your core values, that is the guiding compass to where you feel unfulfilled. And everybody's values are different. And some people say you should only focus on one or two. When I work with clients, I work with like their top 5 core values. And I go through a whole process with them to determine what those values are. And then I have them define the value very clearly as to what it means to them, because your definition of, connection and my definition of connection, that's one of my top 5, might not be exactly the same. So, and it's not the Webster Dictionary definition. It's what does that mean to you? Because if you're trying to fulfill somebody else's idea of connection, that's not going to have you fulfilled either. It has to be what it means to you. So looking at those, and then this is the place where you see where the disconnect happens. I have my clients then rate on a scale of 1 to 10, start 1 being like abysmal and 10 being couldn't get better, how much they're actually living that value as they have defined it in their life now, right? And usually what we discover is there's 2 or 3 values that are in a higher range, and there are 2 or 3 values that are in a really low range. And that's where our work lies. At discovering the gap between what would life at a 10 look like if you have a value of, ambition and or acknowledgement, or a value of, um, of course blanking on every value I could ever come up with, but like the wealth, it could be wealth, it could be kindness, it could be responsibility, it could be leadership. If you have like, but if you're living that value at like a 3 or a 4 or a 5 in your life, you're going to be feeling a really big gap. And that's
And
usually
these
where
values
that
that
lack
you're
of
talking about,
fulfillment
these
or
in
that lack of
particular, they're
happiness
like
comes
personal
from.
values, what you see means something to you
Mhm.
in your life.
Correct. But here's the kicker. Your values for like your career are not going to be different for you than your
Interesting.
values for you as like a in your personal life. So you're not going to have who you are, and what's important to you is who you are and what's important to you. And while your values can change, which is part of the reason this happens around the time you're 30, because your values in your
Yeah.
early 20s when you're getting out of school are probably totally different than your values at 30 once you've experienced more in life, right? So your values can change, but you can't like practice a value to get to, like, you can't, you're not, if inherently integrity is
Mm-hmm.
not a value for you, you're not going to work on making integrity a value. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that we like
Okay. So it kind of
desire. It's
sounds
just
like you
something that
gotta like sit
exists
with
within
yourself
us.
for a minute and
Um,
be like,
and
all
so,
right, what are my values?
ding,
What do I
ding, ding.
naturally gravitate towards?
And where is that? Where am I not honoring it? Or where is it not being honored in my life, either by the people I'm surrounding myself with, by the company that I work for? Like, where is that where is my
Okay.
life misaligned um, from that? And that is a huge
Interesting.
indicator for
Okay.
a lot of people
Because I
about
think
where and
sometimes
why
people are
they're not
like, how the
fulfilled.
hell do I go about finding these values that I so called have? Because I think society has an influence in that, right? Like if I were to sit here and tell you like I know myself well enough to be like, okay, well,
100%.
a value for me is ambition. A value for me is success, which success means so much to
Mm-hmm.
so many people. Like it has different meanings, right? So success and like
Well, so what I would say to you is, what does success mean to you, Heather? What is your definition of success? Not like the definition that was passed down from your parents or from your culture or from America, but like what would feel
so let's play this out. So success for me, like I'm highly ambitious, so
great?
that's a
Let's do
value.
it.
That's inherently there. Two, success, right? Success for me is the
Okay.
success of all of the businesses that I have going on. The success with So She Slays, success with Slay AF, being able to have my acting and my producing and being able to maybe one day help other people get funding and make their projects and all of that kind of stuff and really help try to bring more diversity and
Mm-hmm.
representation into the entertainment industry. Success to me also means being able to, fund projects
Great.
for, my nieces and nephews or donate to causes or, all of that kind of stuff without even really thinking about it, right? So I have these financial freedom. Okay, okay, there we go. Financial freedom. I've
So
always said
financial
that. I've always said
freedom
that
is an
like
element of success
money
for you.
doesn't actually mean anything but freedom to me. Like just it just means freedom. So like those are
Yep.
three, right? Like those are three, right?
Right. But what I would just say to you, and those are great, but I would say to you, I would tell you to go through each of your individual businesses and get super crystal clear. And not even like, I would say to you, okay, if we were celebrating a year from today because you had accomplished more in each of these areas of your life than you thought was possible, what would we be celebrating? Because you can say, like, it means success in my business, but that's not tangible. So I want to know what it would look like in a year so that we can get super crystal clear. So then you can take the action and figure out what's in the way of you getting there. That's how you actually get from A to Z. Because success,
Mm-hmm.
just to say, like, I would feel successful, the financial freedom you started to get clear with, right? Like, but then I'd break that down with you even more. Like, how much money, what does that look like? How much money is that in 1 year? How much money is it in 3 years? Because if you don't know specifics, how can you actually take the steps
That
to
is
get
such
to
a
where you
okay.
want to
So that
go to
I'm so glad
measure
we
if
worked
this
this
is
out. I'm
working
so
for
glad
you
we
or
played this out
not, right?
because I think sometimes people they just like we just don't know.
Uh-huh.
Like even myself, when you were like, "Oh, what's it look like in a year?" I'm like, "Shit, I don't know. Um, not where I am right now, I guess, like in a higher area.
Right. This is the thing to go back. Like, we never are taught that we actually need to sit down and get clarity about what it is that we want. We just like, we're supposed to make a decision about what our career is and then boom, go. And then when there's confusion or it doesn't feel good, or even when it does, without having a little bit of a vision and taking the time to cultivate that vision or having some guidance through the I don't know, there's no intentionality. And so it's like, maybe it happens because we're doing some of the right things, but when you're actually directed and you're actually like super clear on where you want to get,
True.
and you're prioritizing, because if everything is important, nothing is important. So you actually are prioritizing what's the first priority here and what's the
Ooh. Okay.
smallest first
So
step you can take
pause.
that's going to have the
How do
biggest
we
impact.
find that? Is there a formula? Is there a formula? Can I?
That's a big question. There's not a formula. There's not an A plus B equals C. There's a lot of different things you can do, but I do think, I mean, I call bullshit that if you gave yourself a few minutes to actually say, well, if I look a year ahead in my Slay AF business, this is what I would like to be different from what exists now. Like, I would challenge you to get off of this podcast and think about that, because you probably do know if you actually sit with the question. And if you don't know, here's what I tell you to do: journal, go for a walk with a friend, however you process best. Some of us are better verbally, some of us like to write, some of us like are great if we go for a workout or go for a hike. But giving our brains the space and set the intention of like processing through that thought during that time, something will come to you that you can start to play with. It might not be a crystal clear answer, because life doesn't work that way. We don't just like, but it might be something that you can start to sit with and play with and figure out you mentioned like being drained at the beginning. Figure out what are the things you do in your life that fill you up, like that energize you, that you get into a flow state where you lose track of time. And what are the things that drain you? What are the things that you're doing in your day to day that leave you feeling totally exhausted, spent, resentful? Those are also indicators, right? Knowing those two different things. So there's a lot of different things to help you figure out the path when you're sitting in I don't know. But if you start to give yourself some space and like some specific questions, like what are my values and where am I not actually meeting them? What are what are the things that fill me and what are the things that drain me? Things like that are specific questions. Who are the people that I spend time with that fill me and drain me? Those questions, and recognizing what are the qualities of those people that might fill you and what are the qualities of people that drain you, they can help to start to point you in the direction of what's going to actually help you to feel fulfilled on your day-to-day versus feeling drained in your day-to-day. But the other thing that's draining you is lack of boundaries.
Let's explore that before I ask my question. So what do you mean?
So a lot of the time, what ends up draining us is saying yes to things that we really want to say no to, doing things that like we feel like we should along those same ideas, but that actually don't serve our bigger picture in the long run. And again, when you get clear about the values that you're not honoring in your life or aren't being honored in your life, you can see the direct correlation between values and boundaries. And when you really are honoring your values, there are boundaries that you need to uphold in order to be able to stay true to yourself before you actually take care of other people. And that's a huge part of what we end up doing, is we end up like putting other people's needs first, especially at work, We feel like we can't say no. We take on too much. When the truth is, there are ways to diplomatically set boundaries. And I think we also have this idea in our head of like boundaries are like, no, I'm not going to do that. And that like, that's actually what happens is this is particular to women. Women tend to not set a boundary, not set a boundary, not set a boundary. Then like, it's like a pressure cooker. Then the top blows off. Yeah, exactly. So when you actually calmly say, you know, I need to know what's more important, X or Y, because I'm not able to complete both within the time frame. So let me know which is the most important, and then I'll get to the other one afterwards. Or if it's really important to you, let's find somebody else who can take that. That doesn't sound like you're being an asshole, right? It just sounds like you're being super clear. That's a very clear boundary of, I cannot do all of this in the time that you're asking me to do it. But you're not saying, no, I'm not doing it. You're saying, I can do this or this, which is more important. And if you really need this by this date, let's sit down and figure out a solution to the problem that doesn't include
that
me
we
burning
also,
myself
you
out.
mentioned a little bit about figuring out where exactly like your values are not being met and all this kind of stuff. Here's the thing is like, I think a lot of people just get scared to take action, right? Like action is a totally, like you can sit there and think about it. Like there are friends who, I don't, my mom always says this. She's like, when you've had enough, you'll do something about it. And
Yep. My favorite Elizabeth Gilbert quote, when you're tired of your own bullshit, I'm going to say it wrong, but
yeah,
it's something like,
but it's
you'll
true.
get out
It's
of your
true.
own
It's like
way
when you've
you
had enough,
finally get tired
you'll
of
do
your own
something
bullshit.
about it.
Yeah.
And I see it a lot with friends, and there's a few friends that I have that, you know, they've been in their jobs and it was fine. It worked for a long time, but now we're at this crossroads where it doesn't work anymore, and it's starting to really deplete who they are and their happiness and all this kind of stuff. And it's taken a while to like pull the trigger, but I know that there are a lot of people out there right now who are like, I can't make the change yet. I can't, like, you know, my job is draining me. This situation's draining me. I'm unhappy. I've been unhappy. And I just like, I can't make the change because I have, you know, kids, or, you know, I have a mortgage, or, you know, X, Y, and Z. I feel like the list can go on and on. And those, I feel like those are all such valid reasons, because they're just like, I have things to, you know, I have things to do. I have bills to pay. I can't just like up and leave. And, you know, then the feeling of being trapped starts coming in.
Yep. So what you're saying is there are realities of there's a mortgage to pay, there's a family to support, or whatever. And our brain will always naturally look for the reasons things won't work instead of the reasons things will. Our brains are trained to look for what could go wrong. And our brains have not evolved since caveman days, literally. So they are trained to look for saber-toothed tigers that are going to kill us, or the enemy that's going to come and steal our food. And that's when we talk about the fight or flight, right? Our brain is always looking for what could go wrong so that I can save you from it, so that you'll stay alive. And our brain processes taking risks of going to a new job, or creating an entrepreneurial project, or putting ourselves out there in some way, in the same exact way that it processes a saber-toothed tiger, right? And the way the brain works is, if I save you by stopping you from doing that thing that could kill you 150 times, even if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter because you're still alive. But if I get it wrong that one time, then you're dead. So my job is to make sure that even if I'm not right, even if like failing won't kill you, I'm going to make you think it will, just in case. So the thing that is important is to actually start to look. There's a difference between, we've started to think of being realistic in our lives in a way that is actually more negative. When the way to discern between the two is, if you're just automatically going to all the reasons why something will not work, you're actually hearing from that like inner critic brain. You're hearing from that fight or flight, that inner critic. You can call it's called your saboteur. Someone I know calls it shit FM, which I think is so funny. Like that, radio station of just negative thoughts that go through your brain. If you want to look at how the difference is, asking yourself the question, is this possible? Is there a way I could make it work? Not, these are all the reasons it won't work. Like, what could I possibly do to make this work? Are there ways that I could make this work? Now, the other thing that you're talking about goes back to that idea of the smallest thing that's going to make that biggest difference. Most of the people I work with aren't quitting their jobs out of the gate, right? They're not like coming to talk to me and 2 days later they're quitting their job, they're leaving their job. We're coming up with a plan that actually will work for their lives and takes into account the circumstances and the things that are non-negotiable for them. What do they need to have? So what you're talking about speaks to a value of security, right? So that might be a core value for them is I need to make sure I can take care of my family. That is at the top of my list. So we make sure that whatever move is made next honors that core value of security. But it also will take into account whatever and their current job is honoring that value. That's already honored. And they're scared that whatever is next will not honor that value. But we make sure that we can find something that honors the value that's not being met and keeping them unhappy, right? And that value of security as well.
Yeah.
And it happens in small increments. We're not blowing up anybody's life. That's usually if you
I can't blow up my life because it's going to totally put me in the wrong direction. Oh my God. Okay. So here's my thing too. It's
exactly. Bad idea.
I feel like a lot of us do know this. I feel like this is known. It's just like putting it into practice, putting it into, terms and giving examples of, what do we do? How do we do it? All of that kind of stuff. I think too, like if you have a chance to work with people that are younger than you, So She Slays has a few of our interns that are, just about to graduate college. And I find myself being like, okay, don't be in a hurry. It's a complete trap. This thing called adulting is shit. Don't do it. I always tell my mom was like, you were in such a hurry to like grow up. And I was like, yeah, don't do it. It's a fucking trap. Stay young and dumb for as long as possible before you can like be an adult. And I'm like, every time I have an intern who's like, oh, I'm going to go do this on spring break, I go do it. Don't worry about it. We're here when you get back. Like, go have fun, blah, blah, blah. Because you're not going to get spring breaks when you get into adulting. It doesn't exist. So it's so crazy because I kid you not, like there's so many of us that are in this like 30s category, for instance, or even like coming into 30s that are just like, oh my God, this is a lot. So you're like, I wish I could just go back to, I don't know, when things weren't so complicated.
There's definitely a lot of responsibility with growing up for sure. But if you love what you do, you don't need spring break so badly. Like it, and at the same time, life is like, there's also an acceptance factor of the roller coaster of life. I mean, it was a roller coaster when you were 16 too, right? Like emotions.
No, I said, oh geez, 13, 16,
no matter what age you are,
21,
13,
25, 30.
Oh geez. Right. Exactly. It doesn't stop that roller coaster. So there's also that element of acceptance of like, oh, an acknowledgement of I've gotten through 13, 16, 21, 25, 30. I'm fine. I'm here. I have wisdom and I'll be able to go through it again and I'll come out on the other side. Like that is life. It is a roller coaster, but I think there's a part of our brain when we go into those periods of like, oh my God, am I going to survive this? I can't survive this. I can't handle this. And that's not like, there are people who need more help to handle things, but it's having that belief that I am going to be able to handle this. I can handle this, and I will come out on the other side stronger. And it's all going to be okay. There's a faith element to it, I guess. I mean, if you really want to boil it down, it's knowing that, because here's the thing. If everything was amazing all the time, it's like Barbie. It's like the Barbie movie. If everything's amazing all the time, it's boring. It's like, and then that becomes the norm, and then you feel kind of dead inside from that.
Right. It's not necessarily you can have it all one way or one thing.
Too.
My question, so to wrap up this interview, I always like to leave Slay Nation with a little bit of action items. So if this episode hit, if you've been pondering these thoughts, you've been in this boat yourself, you've been in it, you're currently in it, maybe you got some friends that are going through it. What are some tips that someone can start implementing to really start pulling themselves out of this feeling? I know we kind of went through values a little bit, but is values it? Is there something else we could be doing?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's tons of stuff you can be doing. The other big thing, I think, is we talked a little bit about that critical voice that runs through your brain, is informing yourself, having awareness around the fact that there's a voice that has been conditioned to keep you safe, and starting to get awareness of that voice and recognizing that that voice is not the truth. It's just it's a part of you, but it's not the right thing. It's not the truth of how things go or how they're going to go. And that's a lot of where that fear of failure pops in, right? Is that voice that says, well, this could happen or this could happen. And what about this? And what about that? And it shows up in that, like, what if? It shows up in shoulds. It shows up in being judgmental of yourself, right? The voice that kind of beats you up or tells you, like, you're not working hard enough, you're not good enough. It shows up in black and white thinking, all or nothing. Negative speak. Sometimes it's realistic thinking, right? Well, you can't leave that job because you have family to take care of. Might be true that you have a family to take care of, but it's not true that you can't leave your job. That's not the truth. That's just a thought. And if you pull apart and kind of separate it and acknowledge that, like, that's my inner critic voice, and you can really get clear about that and say, what else might be possible? That's another really good way.
Fact.
Because
I battle those
80%
all the time,
of the average
and I'm
person
just like, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, shut up.
80%.
Shut up.
Yep. And so if you can, like, kind of separate yourself from it, even create a character for it, and so that it's like you put it outside of yourself a little bit, it gives you the space mentally to think about what else might be possible or what other options there are. So that's another tool that I would suggest in terms of, like, how to help yourself kind of start to get out of.
Well, thank you like for joining us, Michelle. Where can people find you, follow you, all the things?
You can find me on Instagram at Michelle E. Pollack. You can find me on my website, michellepollack.com. And if you go to my website, you can download, I've got a fun free guide around that whole saying no thing. How to stop saying yes when you really want to say no. And I gave you one example. It's got a whole bunch of ways that you can say no to shit that you don't want to be saying yes to anymore. And how to help you make a decision. Is this really something that I want to do? Or is it something that, like,
well, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I enjoyed this talk. I think a lot of people kind of get stuck sometimes, and I know myself sometimes. I mean, there's a reason why I have people in my life who like tend to pull me out or give it to me straight, because I get stuck most like everybody else. I think this is a very hot topic right now, and yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. Yeah, if this resonated with you, definitely head on over to Michelle's site. We're gonna include this in a nice little PDF. We're gonna see if we can get that download for you, so we can distribute it to you guys as well, or all of you. And until next time, Slay Nation, we'll catch you later.